Hey guys, name's Dimitri. I'm a current VCE English language tutor, and today I'm going to be telling you the recent modern examples that I've seen in the world over the past year for 2015 that you could possibly include in your essay for your upcoming exam. Now, the exam is a week as of the date of this video, which is Thursday, today's Thursday the 5th. And I'll be going through all the examples that I've observed this year. By no means is this definitive. I'm sure there's a ton more, there's a lot more out there. However, these are the ones that I believe are probably the most, most pertinent that I've actually observed. Now, the reason I published this video so close to the exam is because to do well in the essay section, you need to be including modern examples that happen in the media and happen in the real world. If you just include an essay with linguist quotes, the examiner won't be able to give you a high mark solely because linguist quotes have been around for years, whereas modern examples are much harder to identify out in the real world. So this is what will give you a competitive advantage. So before I begin, all the modern examples I'm going to be talking about today are on vcestudyguides.com. So at the bottom of this video, in the YouTube description box, there is a link to the article. Make sure you go through all the links first under references. Read through all the different articles that I'm going to be referencing today in this video, so you have an understanding of what I'm talking about. Okay, so presuming now you've read the articles, let's continue. So I'm just having a look at my computer here. So firstly, with regards to modern slang terms that I've observed out there, the most common ones this year for 2015, is bae. A little bit overused now though, however it still is modern. On fleek or on point, and Netflix and chill. Now, if the advice I'd give you is probably reference Netflix and chill as being the most modern example of slang term. It's basically taken off on social media over the past few months if you have observed it. Basically, this is a perfect example that allows you to showcase or show that this slang creates social exclusion because it prevents people, or older generations, or people who are not part of the younger generation or technological generation, from understanding what this actually means. The reason I found out about this term when my brother told me about it first. He's 17 years old, and he told me about it, and I had no idea what he was talking about. So it pretty much proves his age versus my age. Next, I'm going to be talking about covert racism in media. Now, regarding covert racism, this is the idea that the racism is not so obvious. So overt racism is the opposite, which means the racism is obvious. So covert is like subtle racism. Now, I was reading the newspaper a few weeks ago, and I came across an article that was written by Andrew Bolt, and he had said, our safety must be the priority with reference to the refugee crisis that was occurring in Syria, and also how we've had a lot of refugees coming over to Australia and other parts of the world. Now, Andrew Bolt is a columnist in the Herald Sun. As I said, on VC Study Guides, you can find this article with the screenshot that I took of this newspaper. But basically, when Andrew Bolt said, our safety must be the priority, what he's trying to do is trying to reinforce a sense of social exclusion of the Syrian refugees, while simultaneously creating a fine line between the in-group and the out-group. So while this is not obviously racist, it is a form of racism by creating a greater sense of social exclusion. Okay, now in addition to that, I found another example of covert racism in media. I was reading the Herald Sun on the 27th of October actually, and came across this article that said, Muslim children walk out when national anthem is sung. So, Muslim children walk out when national anthem is sung. Now, some people have said to me, this is not racist because they have to label the children, to create a description. But my viewpoint is, well, imagine if they got rid of Muslim children and replaced it with Asian children or black children or, Negro children, something like that. That's deemed racist. So then why is it acceptable to say Muslim children walk out when national anthem is sung? So this again perpetuates Islamophobia in our society, which is the idea that Australians are somewhat fearful of Islamic people. Okay, next thing I'd like to look at is a post that I observed on Malcolm Turnbull's Facebook page. Again, it's all linked in VC Study Guides. Basically, Malcolm Turnbull had posted a post on his Facebook page saying violent extremism is a challenge to the most fundamental Australian values. Now, violent extremism, that really stood out to me. When I actually did a bit of research into this, violent extremism is actually a nominalisation because it's been converted to the lexeme extreme has been converted to a noun, so the extremism. And what this actually does is it removes blame from a certain group. So violent extremism by who? So therefore, by removing blame, and in this case we're going to infer that it's the Muslim people. Again, I'm not trying to be racist, but this is just what he's trying to do. And the purpose of this is trying to prevent causing further Islamophobic resentment in Australian society. So what this means is by not labelling a particular group with violent extremism, it allows Malcolm Turnbull to prevent blaming a group and therefore creates social harmony with Australians. Okay, the next example I'd like to talk about is egalitarianism in modern media. So this is now more into Unit 4. In an article that I observed in July this year, what the journalist had referenced Polly's name will bridge gap. So in this case here, the use of Polly as a morphological diminutive for politician, which is very common in Australian discourse. It's basically Australia's way of showing informality to undercut authority and puncture affectation, and also show egalitarianism. Okay, next I'd like to reference gender equality in language. So this year there's been the introduction of a new honorific title, which is like Mr. and Mrs. and Miss and so forth. This one's known as MUX, and it's basically spelled MX, so MUX. And MUX allows people to prevent disclosure of their gender, whether they be transgender or male or female. It just allows them to prevent that disclosure. Now, this actually proves that society is becoming more accepting of different genders and also shows a greater level of gender equality. Okay, next we're going to move on to euphemisms in modern media. In May of this year, up to 80 staff were sacked by Maya, and Maya addressed it in an article on, I think it was the Sydney Morning Herald. They had said that we have recently restructured and reorganised some areas of the Maya store support office. So regrettably, a number of roles in the support office are no longer required and have been consolidated into the business. So let's just focus on restructured and reorganised. These are euphemisms. It's actually taboo to be saying to someone, you're fired, you're sacked. So oftentimes big companies will euphemize the sacking of people through euphemisms like restructured, reorganised, redundancies, retrenchments, things like that. And what it actually does is it basically appeals to their positive face needs and it makes them seem accepted by the rest of society, to not appear so forceful and so rude and so direct. So that's what a euphemism is in this case. Now, another euphemism that I've observed was recently Malcolm Turnbull had said tax reform for tax increases. This was, I think, October 6th of 2015. He had said, tax reform at a Malcolm Turnbull's mini summit, which was code for tax increases. So again, this is actually a bad euphemism because it's trying to negatively manipulate you into paying more tax by calling it a tax reform rather than increasing in taxes. Okay, and finally, well, actually, no, not finally, we've got two more to talk about. I'm not sure if you guys have been following this quite closely, but Uber has been taking a really strong effect on Australia, in particular Melbourne at the moment. With most of my friends take Uber now, and when technological advancement like Uber happens so quickly and so profoundly in a society, it's more than likely going to change the language. For example, Google did that back in the early 2000s. but now it's actually Uber. So yeah, with regards to Uber, I was at a party early this year and one of my friends had said, I just Ubered here. Now let's have a look at the word Uber. Uber in this case has succumbed to a process known as linguistic conversion. Linguistic conversion is the idea that a word will go from like a different word class to another word class. So in this case, it's gone from a noun, a brand name, proper noun, to a verb. So this is known as linguistic conversion. And again, this represents the change of technology on society. And lastly, we're going to end on knights and dames. Now, only a few days ago, actually, I think on the 1st or 2nd of November for this year, Malcolm Turnbull abolished knights and dames from the Order of Australia. Now, this was reinstated earlier in 2014 by Tony Abbott, which arguably represents a greater level of interest in the monarchy. However, the fact that now Malcolm Turnbull has abolished knights and dames from the Order of Australia, this shows republicanism. This shows Australians are becoming more of a republic more than ever before. Now, in an essay, this could easily be linked to the decreasing usage of the cultivated accent. So while the accent is a phonological thing and the abolition of knights and dames is lexical, they still have a very similar elaboration. And the elaboration is that they both reflect the growing value of republicanism. And this actually can be proven by Felicity Cox, who had said that the decreasing usage of the cultivated accent reflects the growing value of republicanism. So that's it, guys. That's my very brief explanation of some media examples that I've observed this year. Obviously, depending on the essay topic, you might need to work out which ones are appropriate, which ones are not appropriate. But as I said, get into the exam. You must be putting media examples. Do not memorize paragraphs. It is a lazy way of doing it. It illustrates you're lazy and don't have any linguistic awareness. Yes, it's more difficult to find media examples. Yes, it's more difficult to put it in, but that's what's going to allow you to separate yourself from everyone else. So good luck, guys, and this will be my last video for the exam. Thanks, guys.